Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Ljs Garage. Behind me is a 2019 Subaru WRX STI. And with the release of the 2021 just around the corner, I thought it'd be a good idea to take a look at what this STI still has to offer. Subaru says this is a perfect balance of engineering power and precision steering and all those good things. It's so great that you'll never want to take your hands off the wheel. So let's find out exactly what that means. I'm going to take you guys on a tour of the outside, hop on the inside, and we're going to talk a little bit about the STI and why I think it's just a little bit better than the Evo. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a backstory here. If you've seen any of my other Evo videos, you've already known this. I'm a big Subaru fan. I had a 2013 and it was the worst car and the best car that I've ever owned. It financially ruined me, but I still have this sweet spot for Subaru. There's a lot of things done to it. I kind of blew it up myself, but that's besides the point. So I'm going to try to keep this a little bit unbiased, but keep in mind that Subaru's got my heart. When this design first came out, I was a little skeptical. I wasn't a huge fan of the looks. It's grown on me since then. My favorite's always been the Hawkeye, and if you don't know, Subaru names their cars based on, or the nicknames that we give them on the streets, are based on the look of the headlights, and so that's why it's called the Hawkeye. It had little hawk-looking headlights, and the grill, and all those cool things. So this one has a very interesting name, though. It's called the Evo Eye, as they know it on the streets, and it's because, I'll show you guys in a little bit, those headlights actually look a lot like Mitsubishi Evo 10 headlights. So there's a big debate right now, and this happens a lot in the car world. When a car starts to get to the point of the end of its life cycle, people start to question if it's worth buying it anymore. So starting at about $36,000 for the STI, and that's just the base STI, then you have the Limited that starts at 40 something. But is it really worth it? What do you really get for that? And is the performance enough to justify the lack of creature comforts, all of those things? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So I'm going to move to the front and we'll start talking about the front end of the car, and we'll work our way all around this beast. Like I said earlier, when this first came out, I wasn't really a huge fan. It felt like Subaru took away the edginess of the STI, and then they decided to kind of clean it up, make it more of a look that everyone would love. And then they went ahead and insulted us a little bit by adding the automatic or CVT option to the WRX, which kind of provoked a lot of people, including myself. So they made this car, instead of like a niche car for certain types of people, the rally car inspired drivers, now it's a car that looks good on the road. It fits in, it blends well, it looks like a Corolla almost. There was a lot of that going on. But anyways, they went ahead and they kept the traditional hood scoop, so that looks really good. You've got these Evo Eye type headlights, and you guys can let me know in the comment section down below if you agree with that. So a couple things you'll notice, that the emblem on here and this green trim, those are aftermarket. So my buddy went ahead and did that. He likes the color. It looks really good. It makes it pop. But you can change those emblems to any color you want, really easy. You can do the little vinyl overlays. Cool little touch to make the Subaru your own. And this isn't a major complaint, but I always loved the generation before this because it had a wide body kit, and these aren't as wide as I would like. I have to point out one thing, and it's that you do get LED daytime running lights, which are nice. So before I go ahead and pop the hood and talk about numbers and specs and all our favorite things, I want to say that this is kind of another area where the conversation kind of gets a little interesting. There's a lot of people that say this EJ 257 that sits in here is over and done with. Subaru needs to get rid of it and be done. But then there's a lot of people that are like, I love my EJ and I never want to get rid of my EJ motor, the sound it makes, the rumbles, the grumbles, the performance. I'm not going to tell you guys how I feel, but I've enjoyed the EJ in the time that I've been able to spend some time with it. It's time to talk about this 2.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder. This motor makes 310 horsepower, 290 foot-pounds of torque, and it only comes with a 6-speed manual transmission. What also makes this great is that with all that power and the cool transmission, you get symmetrical all-wheel drive. So this is a rally car that you can drive on the streets. It's the best of every kind of world. It gets everything done right. You got 4 doors. Basically, it's kind of the recipe that, interestingly enough, the Evo likes, the Ford Focus RS likes, the Golf R likes. There's a lot of cars in this competition right now. There's the Civic Type R. Unfortunately, that one's only front wheel drive, and we'll talk about that in another video. But Subaru kind of was the king for a long time until all these folks came along, and they all do the same recipe, but they add their own little touch and they put their foot in it and they do all that. So I don't really know who the king of the hill is anymore. Oh yeah, and then there's the Veloster N. That's a whole nother beast too. Do you know what you guys should do? Let me know down below. which you think is the king of the hill or your favorite. And really, honestly, if you leave these cars stock and don't mess with them, the only issues you have to worry about really are high oil consumption. There's the occasional spun rod bearing, things like that, but that's when you start to really make some horsepower. You throw a tune, intake, keep it super simple. They're genuinely reliable cars, and as long as you keep an eye on your oil, you shouldn't have any problems with anything major. The 6-speed transmission in these, usually bulletproof. The 5 speeds in WRXs, that's a whole nother ball game. But overall, you leave this car alone, it'll treat you well. The next thing that I'm going to point out to you guys is take a look at these beautiful 19-inch wheels, and behind the wheels you'll see these gigantic Brembo brakes. Those things work really, really well. Behind those brakes, you've got drilled rotors, which look really good and help with performance and cooling and all those good things. And overall, this thing is pretty much set up and ready to go to the track. I'm gonna stop right here really quick. You'll notice that you don't have a moonroof. That's something that you get on the Limited. So Subaru kind of sells you a little bit short on that, and you got to pay the extra to get that moonroof. So it wouldn't be an STI if it didn't have this big wing right here. You'll notice that this is the larger wing. Subaru actually offers on the Limited, it actually has a smaller little lip spoiler that you could do if you want to look a little bit more grown up and mature. But why would you do that? The whole point of this car is to show off and let everyone know that this is an STI. Type R's got a cool wing. So what? This is the champion of cool wings right here. And you've got quad tips as standard on almost every STI. Before we get into the trunk, I want to point out one thing. You guys see this right here? You see this fob? This is the kind of key Subaru still gives people in the year 2019. I don't know, only up until 2020 did they decide to finally do keyless access on their cars. Well, guess what? It's the final year of this generation, so what does it even matter? If you buy one of these, you're gonna have to use a key fob to actually open your trunk. There's no way to open this trunk from the outside other than this fob. So let's pop this and we'll take a look inside. As you guys can see, he's got quite a bit of stuff in there right now because he actually uses this car. Again, it's very practical. There's a lot of space in there. And here's the argument to that. A lot of these competitors, the RS, the Golf R, they're hatchbacks. So what that means, you get a little bit more storage capacity. You got to kind of pick and choose what you're looking for. This is a sedan only, and a lot of people are wishing that they would bring the hatchback STIs back. I don't know if we're going to get that wish. I was always a fan of the sedans. I like sedans a little bit more than hatchbacks, but fingers crossed, maybe you guys will get what you're looking for. I found this Subaru badge just laying around the parking lot. Anyways, quick history lesson for you guys. Did you know that Subaru in Japanese means unite? And these 6 little stars are to represent a star cluster in the Taurus constellation. Constipation. Overall, there really isn't much to complain about. You either love the car, you hate the car. I can't tell you how to feel about that part, but I can tell you that the car checks a lot of boxes. It gets things done. It's not the most beautiful car ever. It's not a sculpted Ferrari, but it's also not as boring as a Toyota Prius. You know, there's a lot to love. There's a lot to, you know, critique, but overall, I give this thing 2 thumbs up. I found another way to actually get into the Subaru. You've got to grab your vape, which I have right here in my hand. Once you have your vape, that's all you need. And the doors just open right up. It's kind of like a Tesla smart key. Before I hop in, I'll show you guys what the back seats look like. They look really, really cool. Subaru's done a good job back here with nicer materials, better quality things. Now I'm going to go ahead and place myself inside of this car. And 5'9" for the record, I sit very comfortably back here. There's nothing else. There's no ports. There's no vents. There's nothing crazy. It's just the back of a Subaru STI. JK, I lied. You do get cup holders. They're about the size of a medium drink. I wouldn't go for a large or anything bigger than that. You'll be okay. As I'm hopping in, I just want to point out one other thing to you guys. Check it out. Manual adjustments. But that's okay. Look at this beautiful Alcantara. Overall, compared to what Subarus used to be, this interior is solid, better materials, better quality overall. I've got to say that the steering wheel is comfortable and nice. I would much prefer the Alcantara one, but this one gets the job done just fine. Shifter's nice, e-brake's nice, the touchscreen's nice, this little Skylink system that they have is nice. They even have another screen up here, which I'll show you guys right there. There, get over here. And as far as your gauges go, this is what you get. There's a lot of usable information right there in the middle. You do get cool things like dual climate control. You can see your calendar, which is kind of nice, I guess. You can see how your range, your miles per gallon. And this thing is supposed to get around 22 miles per gallon average, like 17 city. So pretty low gas mileage, unfortunately. Older motor, it's not really set up to get the best fuel economy, and you can see 20 miles per gallon average. You can make it just so you can only see the boost gauge if that's your main focus. And so I'll give it a little juice here. That's kind of cool. And that's about it. Let's go back to the calendar, the most important view. Overall, the Subaru Starlink system, Subaru Starlink, is a really cool system. It works really great. There's a couple cool things. You go into apps, you've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Pandora. There really isn't a lot that goes on in there. It works really well. The touchscreen is pretty responsive. Not a whole lot to show you guys there. You do get a backup camera. That's standard nowadays, so no surprises there. And it's pretty crisp. I give it a 10 out of 10. Solid little backup camera. But don't worry, you do get nice things. You got heated seats right there. You've got a large cup holder section in there. And when you're not using it, look at that. That's actually pretty nice. You got some more storage right up there. And then you do get additional storage in this little tiny little armrest weird thing right here. So boom, boom. So you got a couple cool things right in this little center console area right here. And it's your sport mode, your sport sharp, and then your intelligence mode. And then you can also control your differential. You can leave that in manual, or you can put it in auto. I always say just leave it in auto. This system is actually very intelligent. Intelligent. I won't bore you guys with all those details, but in a nutshell, just know there's a reason why this is the best performing all-wheel drive rally car. I don't care about what you Evo fans think. This is the best of the best. It just doesn't get any better. The side mirrors are in fact heated. So I know you're wondering, what about the other safety features, LJ? Well, guess what? Subaru says that this is a rally car inspired vehicle. So do they have safety features in rally cars? No. So do you need them? No. You are the pilot of your STI. So that means you keep this thing safe. You are the driving aid. With that being said, it's something to keep in mind. If you care about those things, you are in charge of this vehicle. So if anything happens, it's on you. If you want to have a fancy advanced car in the year 2019, this is not the vehicle for that. But if you want a high performance all-wheel drive monster, you're kind of in the right place. One thing I like is that Subaru opened up this pillar right here, and you can actually see, so it gets rid of that little blind spot a little bit. You'll never forget that you're driving an STI because you'll look behind you and you'll see this big wang. The suspension on this, I've heard people say that it's tough, it's rough, it's so aggressive, but it's really, really not that bad. It's tight is the best word that I could use to describe it. You do get a gear gauge so you can see what gear you're in. One of my big complaints is that I often find myself ending up from second gear to fifth gear, and I don't know if I'm the only one that does it, but just something that I've noticed kind of gets in my way a little bit. But once you spend some more time with the car, I guarantee that probably happens less. Major positives for a lot of you is that this actually has hydraulic steering still. So that means that you feel everything, and it's nice and tight, nice and aggressive. And so you can really get into these corners. You really know exactly where you're placing the car. And it's just so much fun. And I don't know, even the M3 doesn't really feel the same as a car with hydraulic steering. So major, major plus if you're trying to hold on to this driving experience for a long time moving forward. Because this has Brembos, as you would expect, great braking. So that's phenomenal. So the confidence is there when you're getting in those corners. And if you get a little squirrely and you're like, I need to back off a little bit, guess what? You can, because the Brembos have got your back. But you won't get squirrely. You won't have any of that happen because this car is so composed, so well balanced. The steering is precise. Everything feels so good. Subaru's been doing this for so long that, I don't know, there's really nothing else for them to do to make this the best version of the STI that it can be. So now it's time for them to start fresh. Kind of similar to what Chevy's got to do. They've made the best Corvette they can, and now they had to make a new Corvette and scrap everything and start fresh. And I think that's what's going to end up happening for Subaru, and I'm excited to see what they've got in store. I know a lot of people are going to complain that, yes, I want all these bells and whistles, these cool things. I want my car to park itself. But that's not what this car is about. The issue for this becomes the fact that it's kind of like the 370Z. You're paying so much for this car, and you feel like you're missing out on all the cool 2019, 2020 features, the things that are pretty much standard on every Corolla nowadays. And you got electric cars that will, pretty much blow the doors off of this thing any day. And even though this car is fast, or I should say it's fairly quick, it's not that fast. And so you kind of have to put a little bit of work and money and time into it to get this to be a high-performing car. So this thing isn't for people that do want those bells and whistles, but if you enjoy a car for what it is and you want to kind of preserve one of the best STIs and Subarus ever made, this right here is it. And for that nostalgia and the pure driving experience, it gets my thumbs up. But if you want all that stuff, this isn't the car for you. Subaru's never had the best interiors. They've never had the most luxurious things. So you might want to look into like the Golf R, because it has a lot of those things. All-wheel driving experience is pretty much, you know, spot on to this, but it doesn't have the same thrill-seekingness that the STI gives you. The Evo comes the closest to me, and I don't know, this is just raw, and that's the best word to describe it, is raw, but not an Evo raw. Evo is a whole nother level of raw. I like this clutch a lot because on the last generation WRXs and STIs, the clutch was so heavy. So that's how I got my beefy calf muscle right here on my left leg. And really, there's not a whole lot to say. You got to get in one of these, drive them, see if you really love them. It's going to be a very pleasurable experience for you, the car, everyone that gets to ride shotgun. So that's all I can say. My opinion on everything is buy a car that works for you. Don't worry about the other features, because eventually, you know, those things don't really matter. It's just kind of what fun you get out of driving the car. Overall, I gotta say is just, you gotta drive the car that works for you. If you want those bells and whistles, then make sure you get those bells and whistles. If you know genuinely deep down that you don't really care about those things, and you just want to get in a car and drive it and have fun, and you know you have windy mountains nearby, you know that it's going to snow where you live, this is the car that you want. There's really nothing else to say about it. I've always loved the STI, and biases aside, this is a great car to drive. This is a great car to own. And again, if you keep this car stock and just keep checking your oil, do your maintenance, it'll treat you right. So thank you guys again for checking out yet another video in Ljs Garage. Special thanks to Chase for letting me take this car out. And stay tuned, subscribe, do all that good stuff. See you next week.